Hey team, Yasin here, and in this training, we're going to be going over designing your version 2.0 self. Now, I'm really pumped for this training because it's really going to go ahead and allow you to be able to design not only who you're becoming, but also what it is that you want inside of your dream life. And to really give you an idea of what this training is going to be talking about, I want to go ahead and quickly give you guys an example. I want to give you a metaphor so that way you can really start to understand exactly what it is that we're going to be going over inside of this training. Okay, so for this metaphor, I want you to imagine that life is like a river. Okay, and most people, they jump into the river of life without ever really deciding where is it that they want to end up, right? So very quickly, what ends up happening is that they get caught up in the current, right? The current of the river of life. And that includes the current events, the current fears, the current challenges, whatever else is going on in their life currently, right? And then what ends up happening is that when they come to a fork in the road, aka the river, they don't actually consciously decide where it is that they want to go, or they don't choose what direction that they want to go or whatever's best for them, right? And so they end up actually just going into the river of life with the flow, right? So they're going with the flow. And what ends up happening is that they end up becoming a part of the massive number of people who just kind of get directed by their environment. They get shaped by society's paradigm rather than them living by their own values and their own paradigm, right? And so then they remain in this unconscious state until one day they hear the raging, roaring sound of the Niagara Falls. And what that does is it wakes them up, and they realize when they wake up that they are 5 feet away from the edge of the Niagara Falls in a boat that has no oars. And so this is what it looks like for them, okay? So they're on the edge of the Niagara Falls, and right in front of them is a 180-foot fall, and they're sitting in this boat that they've been unconsciously going through the river of life with. And just to give you guys some perspective, this right here is a passenger boat here at the edge of the Niagara Falls, and that's a 72-foot, 300-passenger boat. That is not a small boat. So that's just to give you guys some perspective of how big these falls actually are, okay? And so these people are going through this boat here, and we call them having Niagara syndrome. And Niagara syndrome meaning that they've literally just been going through life with the flow, right? And so it is at this point when they are on the edge of the Niagara Falls that they say, oh man, oh shoot, I need to start doing something with my life. I need to change, right? But at that point, it's too late because they are going to take a fall. And that fall might be something like a health fall. It might be a physical fall. It might be a financial money fall. It might be a relationship fall, an emotional fall, a spiritual fall. And so these are the people that we say are suffering from Niagara syndrome, right? They're asleep, going with the flow through life until the roaring sound of the Niagara Falls wakes them up. Because here is the truth. It is likely that whatever issue, whatever problems, whatever challenges that you have inside of your life right now, currently, they all could have been probably avoided if you had made some better decisions upstream, if you had made some changes and some plans in your life, right? And so whatever fall that you might be going through right now, it is likely that it could have been avoided earlier. But what ends up happening is that if you're caught up in the raging river, right, the current of the raging river, then it ends up that you're going to end up taking a fall. And it's very difficult at that time, at that very last moment, to be able to change direction. And so what you can either do is you can either decide, hey, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and paddle like crazy at the very end of this fall, so that way I can try and change direction before I fall over. Or what you could have done is you could have decided to plan ahead and make better decisions earlier. And planning ahead means really setting a course of direction of where you really want to go, right? Setting up what we call your North Stars ahead of time, so that way you have a sense of direction while you are inside of this boat, right? And so the question is that 10 years from now, you surely are going to arrive somewhere. The question though is, where are you going to arrive? Who are you going to become in that time frame, right? How are you going to live? What are you going to contribute to the world? And so this is what we are going to be doing inside of this training, is we are going to be designing your future ahead of time, right? Not once it's already over. We're going to be doing it ahead of time. And so we might not be able to address the problems that you have in your life right now because they're a result of the decisions that you've already made in the past. But what we can do is we can make sure that we avoid those same challenges later on in life by making sure that we make better decisions upstream, aka right now. And so we're going to make sure that 12 months from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you don't end up 5 feet from the edge of the Niagara Falls realizing that it's too late and that your current challenges in life could have been avoided if you had planned ahead years ago, right? And so this is what we're going to be doing inside of this training. And so with that being said, what I want to go ahead and do is I want to go ahead and talk to you about hacking our brains for the game of life. Now, I'm sure at this point you've gone through module 2, you've seen that I usually do talk about some very interesting titles. And I want to talk to you about what does it mean when we say we hack our brains for the game of life? Because playing the game of life is when we go ahead and hack our mind and use everything that we have learned over the course of this entire module to be able to work with our brains in order to be able to create our version 2.0 self, right? So at this point, this should be like a no-brainer for you. You completely understand what it is that we are doing inside of this module. We understand that our version 1.0 self, our current identity, is what is responsible for our current situation. Most people try to attain their desired situation with their current identity and end up falling and failing over and over and over again. And so what you have to do is you have to become and have a different identity, a different paradigm in order for you to effortlessly create your desired situation, right? So that should be a no-brainer for you because we've gone over it so many times, right? So how exactly are we going to work with our brains so that way we can actually hack and play the game of life? Well, we're going to do that by really harnessing the power of our old friend, the RAS. I'm sure you remember our old friend, the RAS, and what it does is it basically uses our beliefs in order to be able to go out and, like a missile-guided system, find whatever we prime it for, right? So for example, if you're about to buy a red car, you start seeing red cars everywhere. It's not that the red cars weren't there, it's just that you didn't see them during that time, but now your RAS is programmed, right? And so we talked about the belief confirmation cycle and how the RAS has that feedback loop. And so what you believe ends up being what you experience ends up being what you believe, and it ends up circling and circling and circling and circling from there, right? But here's what I want to go ahead and add to this, is that it doesn't just stop there. The RAS is actually more powerful than you thought, because the human mind has the ability to think about a desired outcome in the future and then also create the action steps necessary in order to make that desired outcome a reality, all based around our beliefs, okay? So in other words, what you believe influences the actions that you take, and then what actions you take influences the experience, aka the result that you get. And so to give you a visual example of what this looks like, this is exactly what it is that I'm talking about, which is like level 2 understanding of the RAS, right? So what you believe, previously we said what you believe goes directly to what you experience, but this is like level 2 of this, which is that what you believe actually influences what action you decide to take. And then what action you decide to take actually influences what experience or what result you get. And then what result you get ends up influencing your beliefs again. And it goes round and round and round just like this, right? And so what ends up happening is that just by thinking about the desired outcome that we want in the future, we can start to adjust what we believe, which is then going to influence what actions we take, which then influences the results that we get, right? So this is how we use the RAS and the confirmation bias to our advantage or to our disadvantage, and so it can actually hurt us. And so what does this look like practically, right? I want to go ahead and give you a couple examples so that way you can see how this RAS level 2 understanding can be used to be able to work for us or against us. So let's go over that practical example right now. So the very first example that I have for you is a math example, okay? And so in this math example, let's say, for example, we were gonna go ahead and start with the belief that somebody has, and they say, you know what, I have the belief that I am bad at math, right? That is an identity statement, that is a belief about themselves, and now you know what all of those terms mean, right? You see now the power of module 2. If I had thrown around terms like identity statement and beliefs prior to module 2, you would have no idea what I was talking about. But now you know, hey, this is an identity statement, which is a belief about myself, which is, hey, I am bad at math, okay? And then what happens is that our RAS is now primed and starts searching for confirmation of that. And so what ends up happening is that our action as a result of our belief is that we don't try as hard, right? So I'm not going to try as hard in math, right? That's the action. And then when we don't try as hard, what ends up happening is that creates a result, an experience that we get, and that is that we failed the math test. And so then when we fail the math test, what it does is it goes ahead and reinforces that belief that we had. And so the RAS feeds that experience back into the belief. And then we get to the next stage of this, which is now the math example reinforced, which is like, see, I knew that I was bad at math, right? We have that reinforced belief as a result of that experience that we had. And then what that does is that the RAS reinforces the action that we take. See, now I'm definitely not going to try as hard again. And then as a result, again, we end up failing the next math test, right? And so that is a reinforced result that we are getting. And then again, we go ahead and reinforce that belief. And so it becomes this spiral that ends up feeding itself from the belief to the action and then to the result, right? And so what we believed influenced our actions influenced our results, which then fed back into the RAS, which further reinforced the entire cycle. And so you might have heard some people say, oh, this is a self-fulfilling prophecy. The truth is that it wasn't a prophecy. You actually ended up doing this to yourself because most people don't understand how all of this actually works, right? Now, let me go ahead and give you another example. And this is actually going to be a positive example. This is going to be a sales example. And we're going to go ahead and talk about how you can use this to your advantage. Okay. So instead of having the belief that, you know what? I'm not good at sales. This person in this example was smarter because they were an RWA student. So instead of having the belief that they're not good at sales, what they did was they replaced that with the belief that, you know what? I'm not good and I'm not the best at sales yet. And that's okay because I can learn and it's just a skill like riding a bike, right? And so therefore now the RAS is primed in order to start searching for confirmation that reinforces that belief with that action. And so in this example, what this person does, they say, you know what? I'm not the best at sales yet because I'm going to learn, right? I've never done sales before, but I can learn. That's the belief. And then what that does is it reinforces the action. They say, you know what? Now that I have this belief, I'm now going to go ahead and take this action, which I'm going to go ahead and go all out with the training that I am inside and the training that I've been given. And then when they go all out with the training, what ends up happening is they end up actually getting their first client sale. That's the result that they experience. And then as a result, what that does is it feeds back into the actual belief via the RAS, right? And so this is what it looks like when it gets reinforced. Then it goes ahead and says, wow, see, I can be good at sales if I spend more time with the training. That's the reinforced belief. And then what it does is it goes ahead and says, cool, the action that I'm going to take is to go through the training daily. And then all of a sudden that feeds back into here. And now this person is getting new clients left and right. And that is the reinforced result. And then again, it goes to the belief. And then before you know it, again and again and again, that gets reinforced. And this person becomes an absolute sales machine. And so this really is the power of how we can utilize the RAS to play the game of life with cheat codes on. And this is how we really hack our brains with this entire process. What we believe is the action that we take. The action that we take is the experience and the result that we get. And then that feeds back into the cycle. Now, the next question that you might have for me after learning this is like, okay, cool. This is very nice, Yasin, but how do we actually influence our belief so that way we can actually hack this, right? And the answer to that, and the first step to be able to have that is to decide what, who, and why we want to believe what it is that we want to believe. And that's exactly what we're going to go ahead and talk about right here next when we go ahead and talk about the 6 W's of becoming, okay? So in the previous training, we touched on a quick overview of the becoming process. If you remember, we talked about the different seasons of life. We talked about the becoming process. We talked about you are your version 1.0 self. And then in a different season of life, you're going to have to become your version 2.0 self. After a while, because of the hedonic treadmill and the homeostatic impulse, that version 2.0 self becomes the new baseline. And that is now your version 1.0 self. And then in another season of life, you're going to have to become again and again and again, right? We talked about this in the previous training and how you're going to have to evolve in different seasons of life. And we also talked about how most people do this evolution unconsciously and they never actually choose who they are becoming. And so we called this entire process the becoming cycle, right? But now the question that you might have is, how exactly does this process take place, right? And so the good news is that we here at RWA have turned this unknown gray area of how to become your version 2.0 self, because it's very abstract, it's very gray. And what we've done is we've turned it into a precise science, so that way you can do it consciously and not be the victim of unconsciously becoming someone that you never decided you were becoming. And this is where I want to go ahead and introduce you to the 6 W's of becoming. So the 6 W's of becoming, also known as the transformation formula, are what, why, who, how, when, and where. Now, I completely understand that how doesn't start with a W, but it has a W in it. And these are typically what is known as the 6 W's of transformation as well. They really are the 6 main questions that anybody can ask in any circumstance, right? And so the 6 W's right here, when we talk about the what we're referring to here is, what do we want to have happen, right? What is the new reality that we are creating, right? What is do we have 100% clarity around what we want to happen, right? Where am I going in my life? I understand that this where can be confusing here, but let me explain it to you so that way it makes more sense, right? The second W is why, right? Why do I want this what to happen, right? This is what allows us to be able to push through the difficulty. The third W is who, right? Who must I become in order to be able to effortlessly create this reality, right? What are the character traits and the beliefs that this version 2.0 self is going to have, right? The fourth W is how. How is this new reality going to happen? The fifth one is when. When is this new reality going to happen? And then the sixth one is where, right? Where is this new reality going to happen? Is it going to happen in California, in Texas, right? What is the location in the world where my new reality is going to become real? And so that's why there's a difference between this where, and then this where is more of like, where am I going in my life? But that's why I typically just call it the what, okay? So what we're talking about here is the 6 W's of becoming, and this is what it looks like in a graphic format. And there is a little bit of a waterfall effect here, as you're going to see momentarily, as what we do is we start off with the what, then we go to the why, and then we go to the who. And then here on the right side, we have these question marks around the how, the when, and the where, okay? And I'm going to talk to you about exactly why those question marks are there, okay? So in other words, this is really what it is and what it looks like is we have to have a clear what, and then we have to say, okay, well, why do I want to achieve that clear what? I got to have a powerful why. And then who do I need to become in order to be able to do this what? Okay. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and help you break down each of these 6 W's inside of this training, so that way you can start to become your version 2.0 self that is going to effortlessly create your new reality. But before we get into that, I do want to go ahead and talk to you about the number one destructive mistake that most people make. And that mistake that most people make is that they start to obsess over the how, okay? And they do this without even having really any clarity around the what, why, or who, okay? So most of the time what ends up happening is that they say, cool, I have this objective that I want to achieve. I want to change my life. I want to get to this desired situation. And they have like a 50% clear understanding of what it is that they want, right? It's not even 100% clear. They're just kind of like 50% vaguely like, hey, you know what? This is what I want. And then they don't have a why. They don't have a who I need to become. And immediately what they start to do is they immediately start to think about how. How is this going to happen? How is this going to happen? How is this going to happen? I don't see how it's going to happen. And so therefore, I think it's impossible for it to happen. I'm overwhelmed because I don't know how it's going to happen. And yet, they really have been doing this completely incorrectly. And this is a major, 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 major problem. Why? The reason this is a problem is because from your vantage point, from where you are right now when you're beginning this journey, right, you will not know how it's going to happen, right? If you knew how it was all going to fall in place, then you'd easily already have it right now. So if you think back to all of the biggest shifts that have happened in your life, did you know how it was going to happen? No, right? And this is a quote that I love from Steve Jobs, the founder of Apple. He says, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. And so you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever. This approach has never let me down, and it has made all the difference in my life. And so to demand from life that you be able to connect the dots before you have taken any action is absolutely absurd, okay? It is a broken thinking pattern to think that I want to know everything about how it's going to happen before I even start the process, okay? Because the truth is that you can only ever really focus on the North Stars of your journey, and then you can just get busy starting with the process, okay? And the North Stars in this case are a crystal clear what, an insanely powerful why, and becoming your version 2.0 self who. And so when we talk about this in a visual format, this is what it looks like, right? So you're starting off this journey, you're in your current situation, and you are right now your current identity. And as you're starting this journey out, you are keeping an eye on your North Stars, and your North Star is your clear what, and your North Star is who you are becoming. And then you have your powerful why with you along the journey as well, okay? And what that means is that you have to become comfortable taking uncertain action. What that means is that you are going to have to learn the skill of getting comfortable with taking action without actually seeing or knowing the entire picture. This is very difficult for most people who are starting this journey of becoming, okay? And I don't want you to worry. You can learn this skill. It's just like a skill that you can learn like everything else just through repetition, okay? And so the truth is that if you cannot stop obsessing over the how, then what's going to happen is you're going to be unable to take action without actually knowing the how, right? You're going to have to change your beliefs around this. You must understand the proper process of how life works. Otherwise, you're going to be really stuck forever. Because here's the truth. When you start the journey, most of the time, the only thing that you are going to be able to see at the vantage point of you starting the journey is going to only be the very next step. This is exactly what it looks like visually, okay? So you're starting off the process, but then when you are starting this journey out, right from the very beginning, the only thing that you can actually see is the very first step. And then only through the process of taking those action steps is step number 2, step number 10, step number 500. That is only going to be revealed during the process. And so really, this is what it actually looks like. When you're starting this journey, you're starting out here in the beginning, okay? You haven't taken any action yet. And all you can really see is your North Stars. You have your clear what, you have your who am I becoming, and you have your powerful why to help me along the journey. And the only thing that I can really see is that first action step, right? And then I can't see the how. I can't see the when and where. All of that is hidden for me. It's not something that I can see from the very beginning of the journey. I don't know how it's going to happen. I don't know when it's going to happen. I don't know where it's going to happen. And so what you have to do is you have to trust the process, and you have to use your North Stars, aka your clear what, your powerful why, and your becoming who, and then you have to take ruthless, relentless action going forward. And then what ends up happening is that as you are going through this process and you decide, cool, I started this journey off and I took that first action step. And then when you take that first action step, only then is the second action step usually going to be revealed to you, okay? And then you can see that, okay, a little bit, maybe a tiny bit of the how is starting to really become understandable for me, right? And so trying to know the entire journey before you've even taken the first step, all that is going to lead to is it's going to lead to overwhelm. It's going to lead to inaction. It's going to lead to procrastination. Because here's the truth. You will never know the complete picture from your vantage point. Only during the journey is that going to make sense to you, okay? And so what you have to do is you have to train yourself to look at only the next immediate action step and really use your North Stars to orient yourself on this journey. And so here are some of the beliefs that I have repeated to myself over the years that have really helped me learn this skill and learn this process. And so only in the pursuit will you find the answers. Action breeds clarity. You won't know until you look and take action. Action cures anxiety. Action alleviates anxiety. This is really how the process works, and I cannot tell you how many people get this wrong and then are unable to actually become and attain their desired situation. Because only once you have taken enough consistent action and completed enough action steps over a long period of time, only then will the how, the when, and the where begin to reveal itself. So you can see here, the person started the journey off. They took action step number 1. They took action step number 2. Now they're on action step number 10. And only now is the how, the when, and the where starting to make sense for them. And only now are those clouds really starting to part, where they can start to get an idea of like, oh, okay, now it's starting to make sense to me how this desired situation is going to come into fruition. But up until that point, while they were inside of the journey, the only thing they were doing was using their North Stars in order to really orient themselves, right? And so this is how it looks like, right? By the time they get to step 500, they're like, oh man, I now have a clearer understanding of the how. I can see now when and where all of this is going to happen. I'm really almost to the promised land here, and it's starting to make sense to me now, right? But all along, what they were doing was they were hyper obsessed over the action steps, and they were using their North Stars in order to orient themselves, in order to always become their who, and then going in the general direction of their what. So you see, this is how it really works, right? Over time, the how, the when, and the where starts to reveal themselves as the clouds part, and they start to kind of get pushed back, and you become more and more clear on the how, the when, and the where. And so to demand that the how, the when, and the where make 100% complete sense to you when you have not yet taken enough consistent action over a long enough period of time to actually reveal the how, the when, and the where, this is an absolutely completely broken thinking pattern. It's just simply not how life works. You cannot demand from life that the dots connect looking forward. Again, it's not how life works. The dots will only connect when you look at them backwards. And so you have to take action with faith. Faith in the process, faith that it's going to work out, faith in yourself that you're going to be able to figure it out, right? The most amazing things in life all come from reaching out and taking that first step without actually knowing the complete picture, right? And so this is where you're going to have to learn to let go, and you're going to learn to really trust something, whatever it is, your gut, destiny, life, God, karma, whatever, right? You're going to have to trust something, and then you're going to have to do the action steps with full faith, knowing that as long as you focus on your North Stars, that the dots will connect when you look backwards. And so you got to get busy designing your North Stars and then letting go and taking action, right? And then you got to trust that when you do that, everything is going to fall into place. And as a side note, I want to go ahead and talk about this real quick as well, is that this entire concept that we just spoke about right now, this also applies to learning. There are so many people that spend so many hours learning and consuming content in a way that is not applicable for them. They're like, hey, I got to go ahead and learn everything about the how, right? I'm learning about investing right now. I'm learning about real estate. I'm learning about this and this and this. And then you ask them, hey, how much money do you have in your bank account? How much can you invest? And they say, oh, I got $50. I got $100. I got a couple $1,000. Well, why are you learning about something that's not applicable to you? What you got to do is in your learning process, really only focus after you've designed your North Stars, which is what we're going to do inside of this training. You got to really then start to learn and focus only on the next action step that is immediately right in front of you. And then once you get to that action step, the very next step is going to be revealed to you. And then you can learn everything you need to learn about that action step and then continue down the process from there. Okay. And so let's go ahead and get to work actually designing your North Stars together right now. Man, oh man, am I excited for this section of this training, because this is really where everything starts to come together when we start to design your North Stars. Now, before we go ahead and give you the actual worksheets and the activities in order to do this, I want to go ahead and talk to you about why do we call them North Stars, right? What is the real reason that they're titled North Stars? The reason why they're called North Stars is because what they do is they give us a general idea of the direction that we are headed, right? And so remember, from our elevation and from our vantage point in the beginning of our journey, we cannot actually see the how, the when, and the where, right? We cannot see the entire journey. And so what we got to do is we got to use these North Stars in order to guide us. And so by designing our North Stars ahead of time, what we're doing is we're ensuring that we don't end up getting lost in the river of life and we end up going with the flow and the current, and we don't end up with Niagara syndrome, because what we're doing is ahead of time, we're actually designing our North Stars, right? Now, the other thing that's important to note about this is that North Stars are really just general directions and guides. They are not the step-by-step, right? If you remember in that diagram that I had above, the step-by-step, that wasn't the North Stars. The North Stars was a general direction, right? And so when you're trying to do something in life that you've never done before, there is no exact roadmap that is step by step by step, right? Because the only thing that you can do is head in the general direction, and then you can take action and keep going. And so what we do is we aim in that general direction with our North Stars, and then we go ahead and course correct as we go along. And so once you design your what, your why, and your who, that's when we start to get busy with the process. And then in that process is when we start to discover the how, the when, and the where. And then all of a sudden, the how, the when, and the where will take care of themselves because we're focusing on our North Stars. I hope that makes sense. The last piece that I want to go ahead and talk to you about before we go ahead and start designing your North Stars is all about clarity, okay? And so clarity is very, very, very important throughout this process, because even though the North Stars are not step by step, right? They're not an exact roadmap. They are just the general directions that we're headed. It's absolutely critical to make sure that we actually have clarity around them. It's kind of like, imagine you're in this boat, right? We talked about the river of life. And as you're sailing on this boat, if there's a cloudy night sky and you are unable to see your North Star, it becomes very difficult to know if you're headed in the right direction, right? And so if you're not clear on your North Stars, then you're not clear on what direction you're headed, right? And so the more clarity that you have around your North Stars, aka what it is that you want out of life, why is it that you want it, and who you are becoming in order to get that, then the better you're going to be able to make sure that you are headed in that right direction. And then at the end of the day, without your North Stars, you're going to end up becoming a victim of Niagara syndrome, right? So that is the introduction to the North Stars. What I want to go ahead and do now is let's go ahead and dive into our first North Star, and that is our clear what. And what we've gone ahead and done is we've put together something called the Design Your Clear What worksheet. This is also known as the Dream Life worksheet or the Vision worksheet. And what this worksheet is going to do is it's going to really help you get clear on your what, right? What is your dream life? What is your vision? And remember, clarity is power. You do not want to have a generic what, because your 12-month what is going to look completely different from my 12-month what, right? And so what are the things that you want to achieve 12 months from now, okay? You got to make sure that you are crystal clear on what your what looks like and not anybody else's, right? You cannot put inside of Google Maps and say, hey, I want to go to someplace nice. Google Maps is going to ask you, well, okay, what does that mean? Like, where do you want to go? You want to go to California? You want to go to Hawaii? You want to go to Bali? Where are you trying to go, right? And so you have to make sure that you are clear on where you want to go, aka your what. And then even if you do say, hey, Google Maps, I want to go to Hawaii. Well, guess what? Google Maps is going to ask you, okay, well, what hotel? What's your budget? What room do you want to be in, right? And so you have to start to become painfully specific. If you do not get specific, you cannot go to where it is that you want to go. The more clear that you are on this worksheet that we're about to do here together in a second, the more clarity and certainty that you will have in your life. And then the more certainty that you have in your life, the more aggressively that you will be able to go through life with passion, okay? And so whenever I personally have ever gotten stuck in business, in life, a lot of times it's because I've lost sight of my vision and my dream. I don't know where I'm headed. I've lost sight of my North Stars. And so if you don't get a clear picture of where you are going, aka your what, then you're never going to get there, ever. And so these are two quotes that I really like to hit this home for you, is that if you do not define your dream, then you will become a part of someone else's dream. And if you live your years, your months, your weeks, and your days without clear intent, then you will become a part of somebody else's intent, okay? So this is just the introduction of the what worksheet. And what I want to go ahead and do right now is I want to go ahead and talk to you more specifically about the what worksheet. So I'm going to go ahead and cut over right now to a quick mini training that is going to walk you through the A to Z step-by-step of the clear what worksheet. All right, welcome to this mini training about designing your clear what. And we've gone ahead and put this together in a worksheet format for you. Just as always with all of the templates that we provide for you, you are going to need to go ahead and click on File, make a copy. You will not be able to edit this template. And so with that being said, let's go ahead and hop into this worksheet. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through the step-by-step instructions for this worksheet. And then I'm going to walk you through the boxes, aka the sections that we have for you to be able to journal through as you follow these steps. Okay, so step number one for this worksheet is going to be to really start to brainstorm. Okay, so what do you want in life? What's your dream, right? And what you're going to do is inside of those journal boxes down below, you're going to start to write 10 separate things in as much detail as you can, okay? And so really define this dream as vividly as you can. You want to make it as clear as possible, as though it's already been achieved. After that step, what you're going to go ahead and do is step number 2, which is journaling about other questions, right? Other questions may need to also be addressed with this worksheet as you start to journal about these things, right? Things like, hey, what's important to me? What are my values, right? Where do I want to go in my life? What do I want to choose to give meaning to my life, right? So these other questions, and more than these, just 5 or 6, you might have to address other questions as well. So that way you can start to get more clear as to what you actually want from your life, right? And then step number 3 is you're going to start to visualize in order to really uncover more. And so you're going to use visualization and imagination. It's very powerful, just like we talked about in the how your brain works in the false belief of reality. Your brain gets information from 3 sources: your sensory organs, its memory, and its imagination, right? And so what you're going to do for this step is you're going to close your eyes and you're going to visualize the achievement of this goal. Okay, so you're going to imagine that you are living this goal right now, and that everything that you have asked for has been received and that you've made it. And you're going to take 5 minutes to really visualize in that category of life. You're going to understand what that means here in a second. And then you're going to go ahead, and once you're done with that, you're going to write down how was it that you were living that dream, right? What were you doing? And you're going to start to list down 4 or 5 activities that you were doing inside of that vision. So that way it becomes even more specific and even more clear for you. Okay. Then step number 4, what you're going to do is you're going to start to find pictures, because a picture is worth 1,000 words. And so clarity is power. And so you're going to start to find pictures that represent what it is that you are looking for out of your life in each of those 4 areas. Okay. And so this is really the fun part. You can find pictures for many of the items inside of your vision. It doesn't have to be all of them, 1 or 2, 3, 4, whatever. And the other thing I want to go ahead and mention is that you can print this document out, or if you would like, you can do it on your computer as well. Now, what you can do is you can actually make this Google document into something called a pageless document. Okay, so you can notice here, right now I'm in page preview, print preview mode. And so you can see here I have this line break. And so as I start to go ahead and, type stuff in, my box is now separated by this entire gap. And that's very annoying for me. And so if you're not going to print this out, and if you're going to start adding images from the internet, what you can do is you can make this entire document into a pageless document. So you go over to File, Page Setup, and then you switch this over to pageless. And what it's going to do, you can disregard that error on there. You can click on OK. And what it's going to do is going to make this entire document as if it's an online web page. And so then you can literally just have as many pages as you want. You can have as many pictures as you want. All of that is something that you can do when it is in pageless mode. Okay, so for the sake of this template, I'm going to move it back to being with pages. But I wanted to show you that you can do that not only for this worksheet, but you can do it with all of the different worksheets that we give you in this training or all of the other trainings that you go through with the program as well. So that is step number 4. And then step number 5, what you're going to do is you're going to come back and revisit this worksheet over the course of an entire week. Okay, so it is going to take multiple iterations. And in order to do this properly, you're going to make sure that you keep coming back to it for multiple sessions so you can do your best job at this. Okay, so what you're going to notice as we scroll down here is this entire worksheet is divided into areas of life. The first area of life is just kind of like your overall. What is your overall version 2.0 dream? And I'm going to go ahead and go over some questions for you here in a second. And then every single section is divided into your ultimate vision, aka like, hey, what does this ultimately look like? And then your 12-month vision for that specific area. Okay, and so let me fix the formatting on this real quick. There we go. And so the second page on here will be, hey, your version 2.0 dream life for your health and physical well-being. Again, what's your ultimate vision and your 12-month vision for that? And then you have your dream for your 2.0 dream for your wealth, your finances, and your career, okay? Ultimate and 12-month vision. And then after that, we have your dream for your relationships, your family, and your emotional, your ultimate vision and your 12-month vision. And then we also have your connection to something greater, your purpose and your spirituality, right? So you'll notice that these are your 4 major areas of life that we spoke about inside of the remote wellness training, right? And so now you'll notice that I've gone ahead and given you some ideas, some questions to kind of get that flowing. So for example, for your overall dream, right, this is kind of encompassing everything overall. It's like, how much money are you making every single month? What type of car do you drive? Where are you living? What type of of house are you in? What types of foods are you eating? What types of vacations are you going on? How have you changed your home office? What does that look like? You can probably find a pretty cool picture for that. What does that look like for your ultimate vision and your 12-month vision, right? And then you go over to your health and your physical. What is your ultimate and your 12-month vision for your health and your well-being? What does your body look like? What does it feel like? And then after that is you're getting clear on what does your vision and your dream look like for your finances, for your wealth, for your career, right? How much money are you making every single month? What does that look like? What type of results are your clients achieving as well, right? Do that for your ultimate, right? Your 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 year, like your ultimate one, as well as your 12-month vision one, right? And then on top of that, what do your relationships look like? What is your family, your emotional state, right? How do your relationships with your friends and family look like? What does your social life look like? Again, ultimate, and then 12 months from now, okay? And then on here, your connection to something greater. How involved are you with the local community? What does your spiritual practice look like? What's your mission in life? Again, ultimate vision and your 12-month vision, okay? So this is the designing your clear what worksheet. Make sure that you do spend the appropriate amount of time on this. Really spend your time to make sure it's really, really good. Switch it into pageless mode, add some pictures on there, have fun with it. It really is a more fun activity. I cannot imagine anything more fun than designing the life that I want to live. And this is going to be something that maybe you've never done this before, maybe you have done this before, but it's going to be absolutely powerful every single time that you revisit it. So really spend the time to do this properly. And with that being said, we're going to go ahead and hop over back to the main training. All right, welcome back. So that was the quick mini training about the clear what worksheet. Now, before we close out this section, we go over to the second North Star, which is your why North Star. What I want to go ahead and do is I want to give you a couple tips regarding the what North Star. And that one is regarding balancing between vision and delusion, okay? Some students, when they first start to design their what, they start to think, okay, you know what? I'm going to create this massive dream and it's going to motivate me every single day. But what they don't realize is that what they are doing is actually harming themselves by going so big that their brain actually doesn't even believe what it is that they're saying. And so sometimes when you make your clear what dream life, something that's like 30, 40, 50 years into the future, it gets a little bit too overwhelming. And so instead what we do is we really start to focus on creating our what more so around in 12 months from now, okay? We are going to include elements that are really awesome and motivating for 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road, but mainly we're going to focus on 12 months from now, okay? Because the truth is that you can't go from $5,000 a month in your clear what and then say, cool, you know what? I'm going to make this dream and this vision of what it looks like when I make $100 million a year. Your brain cannot even fathom what that looks like. You're just not even close, remotely close to that level, right? It just might excite you for a few days, but then after a few days, it's just going to seem unreasonable. And so instead what we do is we say, cool, you know, I'm making $5,000 a month, 12 months from now, I want to be able to make $10,000 a month. I want to make $15,000 a month, right? And so therefore it seems more reasonable, right? And so we go ahead and say, hey, we're going to separate between our ultimate vision and we're going to separate between our 12-month vision. And so like I said, we're going to include some things from our ultimate vision in our what? But our major focus is mainly going to be on that 12-month vision, okay? And so you can go ahead and make sure that you do reference that 12-month target, that 12-month goal that we had set inside of module number 1 in that training that was titled Your Future in Remote Wellness. And you can build a clear what around that goal, okay? And then you can start to add elements for 5 or 10 years down the road. But again, you just want to make sure that you are careful that your brain actually thinks that it's believable. Otherwise, you're going to just end up hurting your motivation, okay? So this is similar to that hedging or that psychology of goal setting that we spoke about inside of module number 1, okay? Now, the other thing that I want to talk to you about inside of this what North Star, and this is the last tip that I want to give you, is really setting a dream that is based on gratitude and abundance. This is another pitfall that some students run into when creating their clear what, is that they go into like consumerism mode, right? They try to channel their dream life to reflect all of the things that society has told them that they should want. And so some students, when they start creating their dream life worksheet, they say, you know what? I want to have a supercar. I want to have a massive mansion. I want to have a yacht. I want to have a private plane and all this stuff that they think they should want, When in reality, the question that they should be asking themselves is that really what I want? Or is that what society has programmed and conditioned me to think that I should want, right? So yes, you're going to want a, awesome car or awesome house, but the question is, what type of house or what type of car would you want specifically, right? And so it's very important for us to make sure that we are doing this worksheet from a place of abundance and not from a place of scarcity, okay? You want to do these things that are on the what worksheet, not because having these external things are going to make me happy or because when I attain all of this stuff, I'm finally going to be enough. Because the truth is that feeling enough or having peace or being content or being happy, none of that is going to come from anything external from you. And so you designing your what worksheet with all of these things that you think are going to make you content and have peace inside of you is the wrong way to do it, okay? And then not only that, is that when you create your dream life from a place of lack, right? Of a place of, yes, okay, this is going to make me happy when I get it. What ends up happening is that you are actually more likely not to get it as a result of something called the pedestal paradox, which is something that we're going to learn more about when we talk about the psychology of money later on inside of this program. Okay, so that's the second tip that I want to give you in regards to this worksheet, is to make sure that you are setting your dream based on gratitude and abundance and not from a place of lack or what you think that you should actually want. Awesome. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and dive now into the second North Star, and that is going to be the powerful why. Now, your powerful why, this is going to be your purpose, right? Why is it that you do what you do? Why do you actually want to achieve this dream life? Why do you want to achieve this vision, right? Because getting to 6 and 7 figures with your remote wellness practice, it's going to take some hard work. And without a dream, without a vision, without a purpose, you will get sidetracked and you are not going to have the grit that is necessary every single day for you to be able to get through the day. And so a lot of people, what they do is they say, cool, I've done the what, that's going to be enough. And then what they do is that they don't actually decide and design what the purpose behind their what is. And so if that's what you end up doing and you don't have an emotional connection behind why you're doing what it is that you're doing, then you will 100% fail, because the why is the fuel behind the what. And so what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and dive into the worksheet and explain to you the worksheet right now. And then we're going to come back and we're going to go over some tips so that way you can be successful with the why worksheet as well. So with that being said, let's go ahead and cut over to the mini training about creating your powerful why. All right, welcome to this quick mini training regarding designing your powerful why. Now, as always, I'm not going to say this in every single training, or maybe I will, but because some students don't recognize it, but make sure you do click on File, make a copy for this template as well. And so what we're going to do inside of this powerful why is that, again, this worksheet might take you multiple iterations over the course of an entire week, but the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take out our clear what worksheet, right? The one that we've done previously. And then what we're going to go ahead and do is we're then going to go ahead and proceed with this activity. And this activity is going to be talking about the 7 levels of why, okay? And so we're going to go ahead and do these steps. And as you go through these steps, you're going to go ahead and do them exactly the same way that we did the what worksheet. We have your 2.0 why overall. And so you have your ultimate purpose, and then you have your 12-month purpose, okay? And then again, for the area of life health, ultimate purpose, 12-month purpose. And then this template right here, I'm about to explain to you what this is here in a second. And then here, your wealth, finances, and your career. Again, ultimate purpose, 12-month purpose. Again, here, relationships, family, emotional, ultimate, 12-month. Again, right here, purpose and spiritual, right? Your ultimate purpose and your 12-month purpose for your spirituality and your connection to something greater. Okay, so what are the steps that you're going to follow within each of the journal blocks down below? So the steps that we're going to follow are what's called the 7 levels of why exercise. And these are the steps that we're going to follow for this. Okay, so step number 1, we're going to get relaxed. We're going to take a few deep breaths and we're going to clear our mind. And we're about to go really deep with this exercise. So it's very important that you come with an open mind. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to look at your designing your what worksheet, and you're going to go ahead and think about the goals that you wrote down in each of those different areas of life. And then you're going to ask yourself why that you want this so badly, right? Why is it that you want this so badly? And how would it change your life if you were to get it, right? And what you're going to do is you're going to write down 3 reasons why you want this dream and how it's going to change your life, okay? And so what you're going to do down here is you're going to go ahead and write those 3 reasons in each of those areas. Okay, so ultimate and then 12 months. So you're going to first complete this entire activity here for ultimate, and then you're going to repeat it again for the 12 month. Okay, so that is going to be step number 2. And then step number 3, what we're going to do is we're going to look at the 3 reasons that we wrote down, and we're then going to circle one of the reasons that has the most emotional intensity for us. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and begin the 7 levels of why exercise on that specific reason that we circled. Okay, and so remember, we want to answer these questions that we're about to go through from your emotions, not necessarily from your logic, because we want to see how we feel about each of these. Because a lot of times our purpose and our why is more so kind of like a feeling, a deep down feeling, not a fleeting emotion, but a deep down gut kind of emotion, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to take that first reason that we had and we're going to go ahead and make that level 1. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and take that and make that level 1. And then what we're going to do is we're going to ask ourselves, why is this important to me? Why is that level 1 important for me, right? And then we're going to go ahead and write down the answer that we emotionally come up with, and we're going to put that as level 2. And then we're going to go ahead and ask ourselves again, why is that level 2 important to me? And then we're going to get to level 3, right? And so then we're going to keep doing this until we get down to level number 7. And so you're going to start to see that there's a very strong emotional pull once we've found the core emotional driver. And that usually happens from levels 5 to 7, okay? And so this is key. You want to make sure that you note that core emotional driver somewhere, so that way you can remind yourself of it every single day. And we're going to talk more about that in the upcoming trainings as well. So you just want to make sure that you complete the activity for now, and then have it as inside of your worksheet, and then we're going to use it in the future. Okay, so again, right here, 3 reasons. Reason number 1, reason number 2, reason number 3. Out of those 3, you're going to see which one has the strongest emotional pull, and then you're going to make that your level 1. And then from your level 1, which is one of the 3 reasons that was the strongest, you're going to say, well, why is this important for me? That's going to be your level 2. Well, why is level 2 important for me? That's level 3. Why is level 3 important for me? That's level 4. And you're going to try to go as deep and as far as you can go. Okay, you're going to do that for the ultimate purpose as well as for your 12-month purpose. And this is going to line up to the overall that was for your what, right? So if you remember, we have our what here, just like this. We have our what, and then we have our overall, and then we have our ultimate purpose and our 12-month purpose underneath our overall. And so we're going to go ahead and connect this here, and we're going to connect this here, okay? And then our next what is going to be our what of health. And so if you remembered, inside of our what worksheet, right? Inside of our what worksheet, we had 2. We had our ultimate purpose for our health, and then we had our 12-month purpose for our health. And so we're going to go ahead and do this why activity behind, well, why do I want this to be my ultimate purpose for my health? And then why do I want this to be my 12th-month purpose for my health? Okay, so you're going to repeat this, the same exact thing. It very much mirrors each other from the what worksheet. And you're going to do this for all of the 4 areas of life. So that way you have a very specific why for your ultimate purpose and your 12th-month purpose within each of the 4 areas of life, as well as for the overall. And so this is how we do the designing your powerful why worksheet. And so you want to make sure, just like all of the exercises, that you are taking your time on this, and that way you can do this successfully and properly. So that way you have a very powerful why as you are going through this entire process. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and hop back over to the main training. All right, welcome back. So that was the mini training on the designing your powerful why worksheet. Now, a couple quick tips that I do want to go ahead and give you for this North Star as you start to design this is that crafting a powerful purpose, it can actually be difficult for many people, right? A lot of people go through life and they don't actually know why they're doing things, right? And so a lot of times, even for myself, it doesn't come quickly, okay? And so if you're not sure about your powerful why right now, what I would recommend you do is that you stick with it. You go ahead and put an initial hypothesis down, something that, you can roughly kind of draft together. And then when we talk about the daily becoming journal in the next training, that's going to show you where you can really start to become more clear on your powerful why on a daily basis. So for right now, just do the best that you can. And then in the future, we're going to be able to work on it some more. The next thing I want to go ahead and point out is that you just want to make sure that you don't have a generic why, right? It's not like, oh, because I want to be a good person or something like that. You want to make sure that for the reasons we spoke about above with the Google Maps thing that I gave you, right? It's important to get painfully specific. Why do you want to have a 6 and 7 figure income, right? It's going to look different for you than it is for any other student. So you have to make sure that you get clear on why this is all relevant to you and why this is very powerful for you. Now, with that being said, what we're going to go ahead and do now is we're going to focus on the third North Star, and that is your version 2.0 self who. Now, obviously, throughout this entire module, we have been building up to this for a very long time. We have said that you have to become your version 2.0 self. You have to become a new and different identity in order to create your desired situation. And so there's been a lot of buildup to this moment. I'm very, very excited to go through this worksheet with you because now that we've designed our what and our why, it's now time to design our who. The who is the version that we are going to become in order to be able to create our dream life, our what, without even having to give it a second thought. It's what seems impossible and painful for us right now will become a daily habit that you can do for pure enjoyment when you become this new version of yourself, okay? So remember, the evolution is going to happen at every season and every stage of your life. Who you are when you make $2,000 a month in this career is going to be a different person when you start to be able to make $5,000 a month. You're going to have to become a different person in order to be able to make $10,000 or $15,000 a month, okay? So just remember, you don't get in life what you want, you get in life what you are. And this is why this specific worksheet and this North Star is so important. So with that being said, let's go ahead and dive into the Designing Your Who worksheet. I'm going to cut over to a mini training that is going to talk to you about that. All right, welcome to this mini training about designing your version 2.0 self. So as always, you want to make sure you click on File, make a copy of this template. But there is one additional step you're going to want to take for this specific worksheet is inside of this worksheet, there are a number of questions that are very hard-hitting when they have your name inside of them. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go ahead and replace my name with your name inside of this worksheet. Okay, so how you're going to do that so that way you don't have to do all of it manually is you're going to go ahead and click on Edit, and then you're going to go ahead and click on Find and Replace. And then over here where it says find, you're going to go ahead and type in my name, so YASIN, and then you're going to see there's 15 instances of it. And then you're going to replace that with your name. And so if your name is Tina, put your name of Tina on there. If your name is Yasin, then you probably don't even have to do this entire step. But you want to go ahead and replace it with your name on there, okay? And then you're going to go ahead and click on Replace All. And then when you do that, you want to make sure there's no space at the end of that. Make sure there's no space at the end of this one either. Click on Replace All. It's going to replace all of my name inside of this worksheet with your name, so that way it can be even more hard-hitting for you as you go through this, okay? So make sure you go ahead and do that. I'm not going to do that right now because I don't want to replace it, but you want to do that when you do this worksheet, okay? And as always, this worksheet is going to take multiple instances, so make sure that you do spend the time on this. And the very first instruction that we have for this worksheet is we want to go ahead and open up 2 other worksheets for this specific activity. The very first worksheet that we're going to go ahead and open up is we are going to have to make sure that we have our clear what worksheet already complete 100% before we actually do this worksheet. Okay, so you want to make sure that you go ahead and have that worksheet open. And then the second worksheet that you're also going to need is going to be the version 1.0 self worksheet, the Defining Your Version 1.0 self worksheet that we talked about in the previous training that you should have already gone ahead and completed. You are going to need that worksheet as well for this specific activity. And then from there, what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to go ahead and look at our 12-month what. That's the part that we're going to go ahead and look at only, okay? So for this exercise, we are not going to look at the ultimate, because a lot of times, how in the world are you going to figure out who you need to become in order to achieve your ultimate vision and purpose, right? It's difficult to do that. So we're going to really focus on the 12-month only, right? Who am I becoming in the next 12 months, okay? And then what you're going to do is you're going to start to go ahead and very similarly to what we did in the version 1.0 self worksheet, we're going to go ahead and start to design this version 2.0 self from different different angles. Okay, so we're going to talk about, okay, hey, what are the skills that this new version of ourselves has? What are the strengths that this new character has? What are the freedoms that I have from the version 1.0 self's weaknesses, right? So you're going to look at your version 1.0 self's weaknesses from that worksheet, and you're going to say, okay, what weaknesses is this new version 2.0 character free of that I currently possess? Okay, so you're gonna go ahead and put that there. What are the good habits that this new version of you has, right? What good habits and routines does version 2.0 Yasin have that the current Yasin does not? So you can see here why it's important to make sure that you put your name in there, right? Same thing, good habits right here. Next one on here, habits. What are the bad habits that this new version of myself is free from that I currently possess as my version 1.0 self, right? What are the fears that this new character, version 2.0 character, is free from, right? What does this appearance for this new version of myself look like, right? You can literally design this like you would design a video game character, right? How does this person walk? How does this person look? How's their body? What clothes do they wear, right? You want to go ahead and design that very, very clearly. And the question that I have on here is, how does the 10K a month Yasin talk and act like, right? What does it do for its hobbies, right? All of the appearance and that kind of stuff on here, right? This right here is kind of like the goal that you might set for yourself. What does the 10K a month Tina look like? What does the 10K a month whatever, right? If you have a different goal, if you're like, hey, what does the 5K a month Tina look like? What does the 15K a month person look like? What does the 2K a month person look like? Whatever your goal is, you can just go ahead and fill it in there. And then if you replaced my name via the activity, then you're going to have that all put together for you on here, okay? Then on here, what does the routine look like for that new version of yourself, right? On here, what does the Yasin who effortlessly runs a $5,000 or $10,000 a month remote wellness practices day look like? What does his week look like, right? All of that is going to be in here. What is the vocabulary that this new version of myself utilizes? What are his or her preferences, right? What does this new version of myself like to do versus what do they hate to do and would avoid at all costs, right? What is their reputation? What is it that people say about this new version of myself, right? What is the judgments that this person is free from, right? What are the limiting stories of the past that this person is free from as well, right? What are some of the empowering I am statements that this person has, okay? This new version of myself, what are the empowering I am statements that this person has? Now, you're going to learn in a little bit that there's another activity where we actually reword and reshift your previous disempowering statements from your current self. This is not that, okay? This is going to be like brand new I am statements. This is not talking about like I am statements that are disempowering that you currently have that you need to reword. This is like brand new. This is like, okay, brand new. What would I want the I am statements and the character traits of this new character to be, as well as beliefs? Like, what would I want the beliefs, the empowering beliefs of this new character to be as well, okay? On top of here, this is a really fun part of this specific worksheet in where you get to actually design titles and roles for this specific person. So what you're going to do on here, okay, so you're going to notice on here, I have the 4 areas of life. And what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and give yourself in this category a title, okay? So it's going to be one title or category per area of life, okay? And then you're going to go ahead and give yourself multiple roles or multiple hats or multiple identities within each of those categories of life, okay? So let me go ahead and give you an example of what this looks like. I've gone ahead and given you a bunch of different examples for this, right? So let's say, for example, physical health. Physical strength, energy, and power. That would be the category or the title, okay? So that's what would go here. And then you can start to create some kind of fun personas within that area of life, okay? So you might say, hey, you know what? Inside of this area of life, I wear the hat of being an athlete, Adonis, a peak performer, an exemplar of physical vitality and strength, right? For the financial and wealth section, you might say, you know what? I'm a financial Wonder Woman, right? I take responsibility and decisions for the spending and my saving, right? I'm a money master. I'm a profit-making machine. You got to start having fun with this so that way it doesn't start to become this serious activity that you're doing. It really starts to become like this video game character that you're designing, right? Inside of your relationships, right here, relationships, family, and emotional, the category name might be, hey, right now, I want to work on having a magnificent marriage. And then some of the roles that would appeal for you within that category might be, hey, you know what? This role I want to have is going to be like mother nurture, cheerleader, best buddy, sexual goddess, right? Whatever that might be. You can start to, obviously you're not going to be sharing this with anybody, and you're more than welcome to share it with whoever you want, but you can really feel safe as you start to design this, okay? And you're starting to design these different roles or these different hats within these areas of life, so that way you can really start to have fun with this, okay? Now, these are just examples. I want to go ahead and emphasize here, these are just ideas. Do not use these literally. What you just want to do is you just want to kind of say, okay, you know what? Like my purpose, my connection to something greater. What is a title or a name or a category that I can put for this, right? So in this specific example, community queen, right? And then underneath community queen, right? So community queen would go here, community queen, right? And then over here, I would have a number of hats that community queen would wear. And so those hats would be, hey, community queen is a force for good, queen of hearts, positive impact powerhouse, timeless time giver, right? So what you're doing here is you're putting all of the different hats that belong to this category that is inside of this area of life, okay? So I hope that makes sense. Again, don't stress out about this. It really is just designed to kind of have you have fun with this, so that way you can have some cool titles with this, right? Dad of Destiny, right? Lover Extreme, Deputy of Devotion, right? Just some fun titles that you can create for yourself, and these different identities and hats that you are putting on. So that way, as you start to think of who am I becoming, it starts to become a lot more playful for you as you're becoming this version 2.0 of yourself. And so that is the last and final part of the designing your version 2.0 self worksheet. So again, make sure that you do spend time to do this properly. Make sure that you do have fun with this. It really is. I can't imagine anything more fun than all of these designing worksheets where you're literally designing your what, your why, your who. Like, it's literally the most fun that every time I do this, every 90 days, every quarter, every 6 months, every year, it's some of the most fun that I ever have. So you want to just make sure that you have fun with this and really enjoy it and spend time on it, because at the end of the day, this is the thing that you're going to be looking at every single day as you start to design your new life and become this new person. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and flip back over to the main training. All right, welcome back. So that was the designing your version 2.0 self who worksheet. What we're going to go ahead and do now is we're going to go ahead and talk about transformation statements. Now, this is technically not like a fourth North Star. It's technically like a subsection underneath the who, but sometimes we refer to it as our fourth North Star. And this is really what we call transformation statements. Okay. Now, you might be asking, what is a transformation statement? So transformation statements are what we use in order to really shift identity statements and beliefs, okay? So remember we talked about identity statements in the big lie of identity. See, now you're trying to start to see why all of the foundations were so important. So we talked about how identity statements can either be empowering or disempowering, right? They can either serve you or they can destroy you, right? I am not good at technology because right? I am not really good at reading because XYZ, right? I am not really good at sales because right? These are these identity statements that we've created from different evidence stories in our life. And so what we can do is we can actually use this formula in order to actually serve us rather than harming us. And this is what we call the transformation statement formula, okay? And so for identity statements, what you can do is you can use this formula that says, hey, I am patient because, insert evidence story there. I am the type of person who is able to do sales because, insert evidence story there. I am the type of person who is able to read a book a month because, right? Same thing for beliefs. We can use the same transformation statement formula. I believe, concept or object there, is new belief because of evidence story, right? I believe that money is an amazing tool for good because, insert your evidence story there, right? I believe that people are XYZ, people are good, people are nice, people are whatever, because of the evidence story there, right? And so our evidence story is some small incident from our past that we have demonstrated the belief or character trait that we are trying to reprogram. Because the thing is that everyone at some point has demonstrated that character trait or that belief. If you're trying to be somebody who is more patient, You're telling me there was never a single moment, even a very tiny moment in your entire life that you have never been patient? Of course there is, right? And so what you do in the beginning is you take that evidence story, and then next time you're patient, boom, even more confirmation for the RAS. Boom, even more confirmation for the RAS. And so you're looking for these small instances in our past that would confirm evidence to this new belief or this new identity that we're trying to become, right? And so then as you start to notice more and more evidence stories, you start to repeat to yourself, see, it's happening, right? I knew it was going to happen. See, look, I am patient because, insert evidence story, it is true. See, I am good at sales because, insert evidence story, it is true. See, I can do this. I am an amazing remote wellness practitioner because, insert evidence story, it is true. And so this is how we really hack this entire formula that normally most people use to negatively harm themselves, but we use it in the form of transformation statements to really shift identity statements and beliefs. Now, I really like transformation statements over affirmations, right? A lot of people like affirmations. They work for some people. I personally think that you repeating to yourself that I am wealthy every single morning 500 times is going to not do as good because our brains are too smart for stuff like that. Instead, what you have to start doing is you have to learn to argue against yourself, and you have to talk back whenever your thoughts try to repeat a disempowering identity statement or belief in your mind, right? And what you do is you learn to use these transformation statements as argument statements to be able to reply back to your brain whenever it tries to feed you these disempowering identity statements or disempowering beliefs. And so this is what we call the muscle of self-argument. And the muscle of self-argument is that as you become more and more conscious, if you remember what we spoke about in the prisoner of thoughts and emotions, what you're doing is you're learning to audit your own identity statements and beliefs. And those include both the ones that you speak over yourself and the ones that you think. And what you can do is you can actually argue better with yourself. And so the more you repeat this process, the better you'll become at reprogramming your identity statements and beliefs by arguing with your thoughts, right? It really is like a muscle. The more you do it, the better you get at it. And then eventually what ends up happening is that you've repeated these new arguments, aka the transformation statements, in your head, so much so that they go from actively having to argue and actively having to remind your subconscious self to passively eventually becoming this new version of yourself because you've argued so much with those negative, disempowering identity statements and beliefs. And so it starts off in the beginning as a whisper, but then it becomes a shout, and then eventually it emanates from you, subconsciously becomes a part of who you are. Okay? And so small wins are believable, therefore achievable. And so too many people continue to give themselves excuses and reasons as to why it's okay for them to be who they are, right? They say, hey, you know what? It's okay to be who I am. But in reality, it's those same excuses and those same reasons that are holding them back when they start to say, hey, it's okay to be who I am. The thing is that you have to start arguing with yourself. You have to start to say, hey, you know what? It's not okay to be this way, and this is why. It's not okay to believe this, and this is why. And so in this activity that we're going to be doing called the transformation statements activity, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be going over the identity statements, aka the character traits, and the beliefs that this new version of yourself must have in order to actually create the reality and the desired situation that we want, okay? And so this is what it's going to look like when we start to do this actual activity. So I'm going to show you the visual representation of this first, and then I'm going to cut over to the mini training to show you how exactly this looks like, okay? So we're going to go ahead and utilize our version 1.0 self worksheet. And if you remember, inside of that worksheet, we talked about what are the disempowering I am statements, what are the disempowering character traits that you right now, your version 1.0 self, what are those things that you identify with? And so what you're going to do is that once I show you this worksheet that I'm about to pull up here in a second, is you're going to take those disempowering character traits and disempowering I am statements, and you're going to take those exact ones and you're going to place them on the left side of that activity. And then what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and reframe and reprogram using the transformation statements formula. And then you're going to take each one and you're going to reprogram it into an empowering version 2.0 identity statement or character trait. Okay. And then you're going to repeat this exact same process with the beliefs as well. So we did this inside of your version 1.0 activity where we talked about the version 1.0 beliefs, right? The beliefs that you currently have that are disempowering. You're going to take those and you're going to put them on the left side of the activity. And then using the transformation statement formula, you are going to reprogram those disempowering beliefs into empowering ones using that formula. Okay, so with that being said, let me go ahead and hop over to the mini training that is going to explain to you exactly how to do this activity and how to reprogram your identity statements and your beliefs using transformation statements. So we're going to go ahead and cut over to that now. All right, welcome to this quick mini training that's going to go over how to do the transformation statements activity. And so we spoke about this a little bit already inside of the main training, but it's pretty straightforward. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and utilize our version 1.0 self worksheet. And what we're going to do is we're going to take all of the character traits and all of the identity statements that we uncovered about ourselves that you have right now about yourself, all the disempowering ones. And we're going to take all of those from the version 1.0 self worksheet that you have right now. And you're going to go ahead and put them right here in the disempowering section column. And then we're going to go ahead and utilize this formula to go ahead and switch them and shift them to becoming empowering. And so, for example, if you notice that you tell yourself that I'm not good at technology, you're going to go ahead and shift that to an empowering identity transformation statement. And it's going to say, hey, I am good at technology because, and then you're going to utilize a story from somewhere in your past. I'm sure there is a small, tiny story that one time you were good at technology, and you're going to use the tiniest of stories in the beginning. But then eventually those evidence stories are going to compound and get bigger and bigger, right? I am the type of person who can sit down and read a book in one sitting because I did XYZ one time, right? It might not even be related to sitting down and reading the book, but you did something that demonstrated the character trait of patience or sitting down, right? I was able to sit down through a Netflix series for 8 hours, right? And I was able to pay attention. And so I'm the type of person who was able to do that. Therefore, I can have this character trait that can do this. And so that is the first part of this activity. Then the second part of this activity is us just repeating the exact same process for beliefs. And so we're going to take all of the beliefs that you currently have right now as your version 1.0 self. You're going to put all of those right here on the left column, and then you're going to use these transformation statement formulas in order to create your empowering version 2.0 belief transformation statements. Okay, so you're going to take whatever beliefs you have. I think that money is bad, right? I think rich people are greedy. And so instead, you're going to say, I believe that rich people are selfless and generous because, and then you're going to insert whatever evidence story that you have for that. Again, remember, it doesn't have to be related specifically to that, but even the smallest, tiniest, atomic, whatever, tiniest story, you want to just go ahead and use that as an evidence story in the beginning, and then over time that is going to start to compound, right? And so you're going to go ahead and do this for your beliefs as well. Now, as always, for all of these worksheets, you want to make sure you click on File, make a copy of this template, so that way you have it, and make sure that you are spending the appropriate amount of time on this, because I cannot tell you how powerful this is, and it's going to be absolutely critical for you to get it done before you get into the next training, because we're going to make sure that we utilize all of these documents that we're designing for our what, why, who, and our transformation statements. We're going to be utilizing all of them inside of the next training. So with that being said, let's go ahead and hop back over to the main training. All right, welcome back. So that was the transformation statements activity. You can already start to see how powerful this is for you to be able to really transform your current character traits that you identify with, your current beliefs that you identify with. So that way you can start to be able to shift them into the new version of yourself that you must become in order to be able to achieve your desired reality. Now, one thing I do want to go ahead and emphasize here as you are going through these activities, this specific activity, and all the activities inside of this training is that it is probably going to take you 1+ weeks in order to probably put this together properly, okay? Because if I told you to just sit down and ask yourself, hey, what are all of my beliefs? It is going to be very difficult for you just off the top of your head to literally come up with all of your beliefs, all of your character statements, all of your identity statements. It's going to be difficult for you to do that. But when you have an entire week's worth of data, right, where you're going through the normal course of your life throughout the week, and then you realize, oh man, that's a belief right there, right? You start to audit yourself. Oh man, that's an identity statement right there. Oh man, that's a character trait that I noticed within myself. Then you go ahead and jot it down on your phone or on a notepad or whatever. And that's what it takes in order to be able to do this activity properly. Okay, so you're gonna get out of this activity what you put into it. So I just urge you, please, please, please do not try to rush this. Do not try to do this in one sitting and just kind of take it from there. I would urge you to do this properly because it will 100% absolutely change your life. Now, with that being said, I know this training has been a little bit of a longer one, but as you can see, there's a lot of practice, a lot of practical information and tactical worksheets that we're going through inside of this training. The final activity that I want to go ahead and talk to you about is turning your vision into reality today and the activity that goes along with it. Because the truth is that when we are designing our vision, what ends up happening is that it can be very absent from emotion and feeling, right? Even if we do get our why in place, sometimes it just doesn't have that fuel and that emotion to it. When in reality, it's the emotion and the feeling that is behind our vision that gets into our bones and is what really wants us to go ahead and achieve that with passion. And so the question that I have for you is, what if I could show you how to be able to add that passion and that emotion to our vision this week, right? What if I showed you that vision that you have that you think is so far away from you, that it's on a pedestal and you're like, oh man, it's far away, right? It's 12 months away. It's 10 years away. What if I could show you how you can go ahead and really start to get clarity around that today, right? And so this is going to be the main question for this activity is, how can you take the first step towards your vision today? And to really hit this home, I want to give you a couple examples. The first example that I have for you is the example of your dream car. Okay, so imagine hypothetically, let's say your dream car is you want to see yourself in a Tesla Model S, but you have no idea what it takes in order to actually even test drive that car. You've never talked to numbers about the car. You've never even imagined or let yourself imagine being able to drive that car off the lot, right? You've never put your hands around the steering wheel. You've never looked at what is required in terms of funding in order to be able to achieve that, right? And so what ends up happening is that when you start to take actions towards these things, right? That's on your vision board. It's on your thing, right? All of a sudden, when you start to take those small baby step actions, that vision becomes so much more solid, right? If you've never allowed your mind to experience the baby steps of actually achieving that, then what ends up happening is that it can feel really out of reach, right? Maybe that car that you think is $100,000 and you're like, oh man, it's going to take me forever to get there. Maybe you're able to get it for $20,000, but you have no idea because you've never actually allowed yourself to get there, right? And so you need to start to train your brain to start to think, you want something? You're so much more closer than you could ever imagine to actually getting it. And what we're doing is we're priming our RAS to really work for us and really help us get what we want out of life, right? Here's another example that I want to go ahead and tee up for you before we actually go into the actual activity. And that is the example of a romantic vacation. Okay, so imagine that you have this vision that you want to take your wife on a romantic trip to Italy to celebrate the success of your business. And you might be thinking right now at your vantage point, like, oh man, the logistics, the finances, the weeks that I got to take off of work, right? That cost me $10,000. But what if what you really wanted out of all of that was the feeling, and that's something that you could get right now? Why put off that to someday when you can just replicate that feeling right now? What if this Friday night you took your wife or your husband to the nicest Italian restaurant in town and you made that your romantic trip to Italy, right? It might not cost $10,000, right? But the feeling is going to become true and you might be able to get it for just $200, right? Same thing. We had a student once who said, hey, you know what? I want to have a grand piano in my home, right? The cost for that, $10,000 plus. But what if instead that student was able to take their wife out to a piano lesson and then all of a sudden their brain and their heart is experiencing the same thing with that piano lesson that only cost them $50 to $100? And so this is the power of this activity that we're going to be doing, is that it really allows you to be able to start to see your vision as a reality today. And that's really going to allow you to be able to make it more real. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and hop over to a quick mini training that is going to walk you through how to do the turning your vision into reality today activity. All right, welcome to this quick mini training about turning vision into reality today. So obviously, just like all of the other activities inside of this training and throughout this entire program, make sure you go ahead and click on File, make a copy of this template. And so what you're going to go ahead and do, and the very first instruction for this activity is you're going to go ahead and open up your Clear What vision worksheet. Okay, so you want to make sure that you have that complete before you actually do this activity. And then what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and pick one thing from your vision that you can start to live this week, okay? And how you're going to do that is through two different approaches. And so you can pick whatever approach is more appropriate for that specific vision, okay? So the very first approach that you're going to go ahead and be able to utilize is the step-by-step approach. And so what that means is that what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and see, okay, what are all of the steps that I would have to take in order to make this thing a reality, right? So let's go ahead and take the example of buying a Tesla, right? So step number one, I'd have to go to tesla.com and build the car, spec it out and all that kind of stuff. Step number two, I'd have to drive to the dealership and just look at the car, right? Step number three, I got to go on a test drive. Step number four, I got to talk to the dealership and I got to talk about numbers, right? And so then what you're going to do, if you decided that you were going to utilize the step-by-step approach for this activity, is you're then going to go ahead and pick one or more of these steps and go ahead and do them. And so you say, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and this week I'm going to do these three right here. Or maybe you decide to do all four, right? So you don't sign on the dotted line, but you decide, you know what, I'm going to take this to the max and I want to go ahead and live this vision as much as possible, right? So that is the first approach that you can take for this activity. The second approach that you can take is called the minimum maximum approach. And for that approach, what you're going to be doing is you're going to ask yourself the question, how can I create this same feeling of that big thing that I want to be able to have in my life, but I can create it today in an easier way, okay? And so the example for that is having an Italian vacation with your wife or your husband, right? And so the question you'd ask yourself are, what are the ways that I can replicate that big Italian vacation this week with my wife or my husband, right? And so even though it's not necessarily step-by-step approach, it's more of like a minimum maximum feeling approach. And so you might decide, okay, cool, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to schedule a Friday night date night at the best Italian restaurant in town, $300. We're going to listen to Italian music before we actually go to the restaurant. That's free, right? I'm going to sign up for an Italian cooking class with an authentic Italian person, $50, right? I'm going to learn a few Italian words and share them back and forth with my spouse. That's free. And so with this minimum maximum approach, what you're doing is you're replicating the feeling of that big thing, but you're able to do that with a lot of small things throughout this upcoming week. Okay, so those are the two different approaches that you can utilize in order to actually start to be able to create this one thing that you chose out of your vision. Now, you can do this for more than one thing if you would like, but the requirement for this activity is to do it at least for one thing, okay? And so what you're going to do for this is that we do have that journal box at the bottom. Once you go ahead and make the copy of this template for yourself, you're going to go ahead and write down in here what that one thing is going to be from your clear what that you're going to take action on this week. And then you're going to go ahead and utilize either the step-by-step approach or the minimum maximum approach. And you're going to go ahead and map that out inside of this box, and then you're going to go ahead and schedule it and get it done this week. Okay, so it's a very powerful exercise. It's a very powerful activity that's going to allow you to be able to take your vision and your dreams off of that pedestal and make it more realistic for your RAS to actually achieve them. Okay, so this has been the mini training for turning vision into reality today. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and hop back over to the main training. All right, welcome back. So a couple quick tips that I want to give you regarding this activity before you go ahead and venture out and actually complete it is that when you do this activity, you will realize that you are a lot closer to this grand vision than you might actually think, right? And so I want you to really take this activity as big or as far as you want to take it, right? This is not some mystical mojo jojo foo-foo stuff that I'm trying to talk to you about. Truthfully, many times when we put things on a pedestal, right, when they're far away from us, we end up thinking that not only are they farther away from us, but because they actually become impossible for us to achieve because of the fact that they are so far away outside of us, right? And so remember, this is all about connecting our emotions to that vision. We're not talking about the fleeting emotions from the prisoner of thoughts and emotions. We're talking about deep down at a core level, right? And so without this activity, it can actually be difficult to feel your vision and make it more realistic for you to be able to achieve, right? And so you can do this around maybe your car, right? Maybe you go take a look and take action around your car. Maybe you take it around something around your friends from your vision, right? Maybe this is something around your house, the house that you want inside of your vision. You go out and take a tour of it, right? Maybe you want to donate a certain amount of money to your local community. Well, why can't you volunteer at the local food kitchen this week, right? And so what the first thing that you're doing here is what's the first step that I could take in order to make this vision a reality this week? And or what's something that I could do that would give me the same feeling as that vision as well? Okay, so the bottom line here is that this grand vision that you're putting off into the future, how can you get closer to making it a reality this week? So with that being said, I want to go ahead and congratulate you because you are doing a phenomenal, amazing job of sticking through this training. I know there's a lot of practical steps. This is really one of the big trainings that this module has been leading up to. So that way you can really start to design your version 2.0 self. So to really close out this training, let's go ahead and talk about first your engagement question like we did inside of the previous training. I'm going to talk about your engagement question first, and then we're going to talk about your action steps. So we would love to hear from you inside of the student community post for this training, which is, hey, what was your biggest takeaway from this training, right? What are your thoughts on the 6 W's of becoming? We talked about people obsessing over the how. We've talked about how people make this mistake a lot of times. Have you found yourself maybe making this mistake a lot of times, right? So what was your biggest takeaway and aha moment from this training? And then I want to go ahead and talk to you now about your action steps. And so inside of this training, you are going to have 9 action steps. And so right below this training, they're all going to be listed out for you. So that way, if you don't follow this madness that I have going on here, it'll be a lot more simplified for you right below this training. But number 1, you want to make sure that you completely watch this training in full. And then number 2, you want to make sure that you complete the student engagement question for this specific training, right? This is the question that I asked you above. Then number 3, what you're going to do is you're going to design your clear what worksheet. Then number 4, you're going to design your powerful why. Then number 5, you're going to design your version 2.0 self who. Number 6, you're then going to complete the transformation statements activity. And then after you've designed your North Stars and created all of your transformation statements, what you're going to do is you're then going to comment on a second post, okay? And on that second post, you're going to comment, you're going to let us know, what does it feel like to see your what, your why, your who, and your transformation statements all compiled together in one place inside of these worksheets, right? What is your biggest takeaway from doing this activity, okay? Then action step number 8, what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and complete the turning your vision into reality today activity. And you're going to do that over the course of the next week, right? You're going to pick that one thing that you want to do from your vision, and you're going to go ahead and do that. And then what you're going to do is you're going to comment on the post that is specific for the turning your vision into reality today activity, okay? So for this training altogether, there are 3 posts, and you're gonna have 3 separate comments on all of those, okay? So you're gonna have the first post that is for the training, the second post that is for the North Stars, and then the third post that is for the turning your vision into reality today. And you're gonna let us know on that post, what did you do this week to turn your vision into a reality, right? How did that feel? What was your biggest takeaways from doing that activity? And how I've done it over and over and over again at the end of every single one of these trainings. I know there's a significant amount of action steps, okay? But I'm telling you, you have to make sure that you are doing the work. This is a process in life, and in every season and new chapter of your life, you are going to have to redefine your version 1.0 self. You're going to have to redesign your version 2.0 self, and you're going to have to reset your North Stars, okay? And so what we are talking about inside of this training and inside of this module is something that you are going to have to return to at every turning point in your life. And so this is what I would urge you to do. Do not rush these activities. Take your time, multiple hours for multiple days if needed, okay? Really start to massage them over and over and over again for multiple sessions, because what you put into them is what you will get out of them, okay? Because you can read as many books as you want. You can take as many courses as you want. But until you engage in the work, and this is the work that we're talking about, until you actually do the work to actually become, you will forever be stuck as your old self, okay? So take this seriously, do the dang work, and I promise you, it is going to completely transform the direction of your entire life, okay? So with that being said, do the action steps, and I will see you inside of the next training.